Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about three things, and first one is an information update on Palantir technologies. I think it's an important one for those who ride the hype train right now. Second, I want to talk about a position that I sold and why I sold this position. I took a decent loss there, so quite unique I guess. And lastly, I just want to give you a full portfolio overview since a lot has changed this month. So all in all, it's going to be a good one. So stay tuned. Let's start with Palantir. Palantir, well, there has been an update on Seek and Alpha about the lockup period and when it's going to expire. And on the channels that I am active on, like Reddit, Twitter, and all that, I've seen that there's a lot of questions on this particular part, and I just want to go over that real quick. So this is the post from John Rhodes, Palantir's lockup period. He gives a summary based on the feedbacks and comments I've received. The number one concern about Palantir for most investors is the lockup expiration. I'm not going over this full post, but I'll leave a link in the description below. I think anybody interested in IPOs, SPACs, mergers, all that, I think is a very valuable post that he wrote. So I think you should read it. But I'm just going to over a few key takeaways right now. Contrary to other direct listings, Palantir decided to use a lockup period, which makes it just like an IPO in this respect. A unique pressure release valve is explained, which could somewhat mitigate the impact of the lockup expiration. Furthermore, the impact of Palantir's lockup is reviewed in relation to the companies that have IPO'd. There are price movements implications for traders, speculators, and long-term investors that are worth considering now and in the future. That is mostly why I just wanted to include it. I think the summary is already pretty valuable, but he goes into detail below, and I think if you are a shareholder, you probably want to read this post. The number one question I get about Palantir goes like this: what's going to happen when the lockup period expires? And he answers this in detail in this post, but there is a particular point that I want to point out, and that's what to do with Palantir. According to Business Wire, the lockup period is expected to continue until the start of the third trading day following the date of public disclosure of Palantir's financial results for the year ending December 31st, 2020. So people, for some reason, on the boards and the forum and all that, they thought that the third trading day after December 1st, the lockup period will expire, so you should sell at the end of this year to avoid the volatility or something like that. Like, that's the thesis behind it. However, that is not what's stated here. What's stated here is that the date of public disclosure of Palantir's financial results, and that's the third day. So not December 31st, but when the financial results are published of the entire year of 2020. So what does this mean? So depending on the exact timing of the reporting of results, traders can start to play with the potential dips and the price stabilization shortly after. Just to emphasize, lockup period ends at the end of probably the first quarter of 2021, because that's around the time where we usually see a full year report, like an annual report. So I think we can expect the lockup period to end there. So that doesn't mean that you should send or sell at the end of 2020. No, you should probably sell maybe mid-March if you want to avoid the volatility. Obviously, long-term investors don't really get that bothered by it, but I can assume and I can understand people to be looking at this company for the short term because it has seen an insane run-up recently. Even for me right now, even though I got in a bit late, I still think it has a lot of potential room to grow. But there's one company I sold, and I took an absolute loss there that was pretty significant in my opinion, and this was American Airlines. So American Airlines I bought before the crisis, and I added to that position on the way down. And as time passed by, I realized that I was investing in this company for the wrong reasons. Why? I had a thesis, of course, to invest in this company. That thesis didn't really change, but the thesis became unlikely to continue, or it was unlikely that it was going to resolve the issues that it had. So I just want to go over the thesis real quick and explain to you why I think that this was a mistake. So the thesis changed. So it was still a value play, which is the place that I prefer. Like, I prefer to invest in companies that are undervalued. However, it was pre-crisis undervalued, and pre-crisis undervaluation, I think, at least that's what I believed back then, and I still believe now, is that it was undervalued for certain reasons that could be explained, like, okay, well, the balance sheet wasn't good enough, wasn't strong enough. They had problems from a PR perspective. So it was undervalued from that perspective. And if you look at the whole industry was relatively undervalued. But American Airlines was undervalued compared to the competition. So if you look at the other major airlines in the US, Southwest, United, so on, Delta, the American Airlines was undervalued. Looking back, I think I should have never invested in this company. Why? Because I believe that the undervaluation had certain risks with it. And well, I do think that the problems that I discovered at the end of 2020, let's call it like that, the problems that I discovered, I think they were resolvable. I don't think it was going to like not be resolved under normal circumstances. Like, if nothing has changed, if this crisis didn't entail, I think these problems would have been resolved and we could have seen a proper recovery. However, because this crisis did happen, the problems were amplified. So if you have a weak balance sheet, the moment you lose your cash flows, your balance sheet becomes that much more problematic. And that's what happened to American Airlines. I noticed it too late because I was investing in a company that was undervalued and it was dropping, and I thought, well, it's getting more undervalued. So I do think it's still undervalued, and I do believe that it still has a long way upwards to go. However, I reflected and I realized that my thesis had changed. So I was no longer investing in this company because it was undervalued compared to competition. No, I was investing in it because it was undervalued, period. And I was hoping, and that is the key takeaway here, I was hoping for it to go back up so I could sell it at a decent price, because sure, it's right now it's undervalued. However, they do have some serious issues right now, and holding on to it actually made it, at least for me, a lot more uncertain. Why I didn't discover it that soon is because both theses were value theses, undervalued. And yeah, in the crisis like this, I think if you are willing to invest in distressed assets, I think like airlines, I think it is harder to discover that your thesis has changed, and that was the case for me. However, I felt comfortable selling this position at the risk of this company running upwards because I have so much exposure to the aviation industry right now. And yeah, if it goes back up, I think I'll have a decent recovery in my portfolio overall. So looking at my overall portfolio, you see that my percentages have mostly changed. You see a new position, Palantir, which I mentioned obviously before. I'm looking for another technology company, and I think I have found one, but I still need to listen to a few more earnings calls and do some more research. If I am buying it, I'll make a video on it. But if you look at the international airlines, 12.6%, John Menzies 11%, aviation 3.6%. So that's over 25% of my portfolio is right now in the aviation industry. And I believe this one is also, Capital One Counties, I believe this one is also undervalued because of this crisis. So overall, I have like 30%, over 30% exposed to distressed assets, kind of because of this crisis. So yeah, selling out a 2% position with a loss, I wasn't too worried about that. I did miss a little bit of an up there, but I do feel more comfortable with it. Like, if I looked at all my uncertain positions that I had like 3 weeks ago, I'm very happy with the ones that I sold. And to be fair, like, Palantir I've had it for a week. It's my best position percentage wise. It's been running like crazy. And I'm also not gonna lie, I think this is my most uncertain position if I look at my comfort zone when it comes to investing. I can understand this company very well, I think, because of my background. But regardless, from an investing perspective and from a portfolio perspective, this is my risky play in the sense that I don't think it's going to go bankrupt or anything, but I think it could also see a significant drop at some point. Sure, it's hyped and that helps a lot for me in the short term, but yeah, it's risky from my area of expertise. I think that's just the way to put it. So that's it for now in regards to my portfolio. If you have any questions on my portfolio, please leave them down in the comments below. And, that's it for today, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you enjoy these kind of videos, if you would like to receive more updates on Palantir and all that, please leave a like and let me know down in the comments below. That would be highly appreciated. Thanks again for watching and see you guys in the next video.